Hi everyone. So this is the 10 myths about writing video. I just want to go over this. This is not necessarily directly related to the issues of language and identity, but it's how I want us to think about the nature of writing, what writing is, what it isn't on some level too, why it is that I'm having you go through this process of working from an outline to a rough draft to a final draft. I want you to do all the steps. I want you to make sure that you do them in sequence and that you wait until after I comment on a particular assignment before you move on to the next one. And some of those issues come up with some of these myths about writing. So I want us to look at what we sometimes think about writing and what the actual truth is, how we actually should be thinking about writing instead. So here are these 10 myths. So myth number 1, only writers with problems need feedback. And then the reality is that good writers seek feedback. Think about the readers a professional writer consults with for publishing, colleagues, reviewers, editors, and copy editors. So I think that's important because remember that I have that 1 grade, right? I say that if you turn in something, you get a 1 comment, and then I want to talk to you. And that's me giving you feedback. And I think if you have that myth that, oh, I have a problem, then you think that me giving you a 1 and asking to talk to you is a huge deal. But it's not. It just means, look, this is where I'm actually going to tell you something. And the things I want to explain to you are more complicated than I can just type out in some notes. And so I want to have a conversation, want to make sure you understand specifically what I'm saying. This idea that professional writers consult with a number of people, colleagues, reviewers, editors, copy editors. So I'm in a writing group with a number of other professors from QCC, people who have published books, right? We've all published in various places. And so on some level, we're considered fairly accomplished, right? We can actually get our work published. People read our work. But we still get together in group and still review each other's work because there's a sense in which we need feedback from other people. We need to be able to say, wait a minute, is this really working? I teach writing. But I still need feedback from other people when I'm actually going to be writing. If I write something, I may give it to my wife. She's not even she doesn't teach writing specifically, but I may say to her, hey, read this over. Does this make sense to you? Right? Is this as clear as it could be? So everybody needs feedback. And so, again, that goes back to this idea of that. You just want to keep in mind that 1 grade. If you have a 1 grade, it's not some huge problem. It just means there's something we need to discuss. Myth number 2, which is related, good writers write quickly and effortlessly. Sometimes I can't even speak effortlessly. Effortlessly. As it says instead, good writers pre-write, draft, revise, edit, and sweat over their writing. When Ernest Hemingway, who's a famous American fiction writer, was asked why he rewrote the last page of A Farewell to Arms, it's one of his best-known novels, 29 times he rewrote it. He explained that he was just getting the words right. That's what writers do. If you look at what it says up here, pre-write, draft, revise, edit, that's what I'm asking you to do with those outlines, rough drafts, and final drafts, and that's why I want to comment on them. So the idea that you need to go through all those steps, that doesn't mean that there's a problem. That means that you're learning how to write well. Okay. Sometimes people will say that people who think writing is easy aren't very good at it. Right? People who are really good at writing know that it's hard. Right? They know that it's going to take a lot of time. So even if it seems strange because think like, well, if I'm good at something, it should be easy. But that's not the case. And then you think about people who do all kinds of difficult things, play professional sports. That's not easy. They work at that. It's not like they just, wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'm just making 3-point shots all day long. No, they got to work at that constantly, 365 days a year to make sure that they're able to do that. And we say that writers need to work at what they're doing as well. So keep that in mind. Number 3, good writers, good writers know exactly what they want to say before they start writing. Absolutely not the case. Instead, good writers learn by writing and are always open to having their minds changed. So on some level, this idea of putting something down in a draft is part of figuring out what you want to say. And then you can get it down there and we can go, oh, so that's what we actually want to talk about. And then that's what we do for the final draft. One of those reasons why I want to comment on your rough drafts, because I want to be able to say, hey, look at over here what you're thinking about. That's really the important part. There's a lot of stuff in here that isn't what you really want, but this is really important. So again, keep that in mind, that just if you don't know what you want to say, that's okay. Just start writing something, and then we can be able to talk about that later. Number 4 is really, really important. Simple language makes you look dumb. Absolutely not the case. Ornate language, that is fancy language and wordy sentences, muddy your argument and make readers suspect that you're hiding your lack of ideas behind fancy words. Use concise, simple, fresh language. Absolutely, I can't stress this enough. A lot of times students will start to panic. They'll think, I'm in college, I need to make sure that this sounds like I'm really educated, and they start choosing big words, or they go to the thesaurus and they're, trying to just come up with big words or something. That's just hide something. What we want to have is we want to have the clearest, simplest language. The idea behind writing is to be able to communicate, and you want to be able to choose the simplest language in order to be able to do that. Number 5, good writers are born, not made. The idea that some students will just say, I'm just not a good writer, right? But that's not the case. We can become better writers. And we say writing is a skill like anything else. No one does anything well the first time they try it, whether it's playing a video game, navigating your way around the city, or even using the apps on your phone. Anything we do well is the result of lots of practice, and writing is no different. If you've ever tried to teach an older person, your grandparent or something, to be able to try and use the phone, they can't do it. You know why? Because they haven't practiced, right? You can do it because you've practiced. It seems so easy to you because you've had a lot of time doing that. And writing is exactly the same thing. You should not expect to just be able to do it easily. Again, that's one of the reasons why you should not get frustrated or discouraged if you get a 1 on something, because that's not saying, oh my God, I just failed. No, it's just saying, look, this is how we're going to develop that skill. You didn't do it exactly right here. Let's talk about it, and then we'll figure out how to make it better the next time out. Number 6, good grammar is good writing. That's not the only thing. Writing is more about grammatical correctness. Good writing is a matter of clearly communicating your ideas to your intended audiences. As I mentioned before, we were talking about some of those issues about code switching and different versions of language. There are different ideas about what is the correct, to put it in quotes, grammar. We can have all kinds of discussions about that. What do words actually mean? And so just being correct is not necessarily the best thing, because who defines what that is? What matters is, are you getting your idea across as clearly? Do people understand what you're saying? And if you look at some of those videos that I have on code switching, we can see that even though some of those things aren't grammatically correct, the ideas are getting across very clearly. Number 7. Essays must have 5 paragraphs. Absolutely not the case, right? That's just something that we created because we like to have an introductory paragraph and a concluding paragraph. And we said, well, how many body paragraphs should we have? Well, I got 5 fingers on my hand. How about 3, right? And 5 sounds nice. So there's nothing magical about that. And so that's what I say there. With an introduction, 3 supporting paragraphs, and a conclusion, the 5 essay is a format you should know, but one you'll outgrow, right? We can start to do other kinds of things. So don't feel stuck with having to have 5 paragraphs. Students will oftentimes do that. Say, why did you put this paragraph in here? Well, I had to have 5. No, you absolutely do not have to have 5. 8, never use I in an essay. So there's no universal rule about this. Many of the essays that we're going to be working on this semester, many of the projects this semester, will require you to use I. So do not worry about that. It's this strange thing that we have that says, look, I'm distant from what I'm writing, but we don't necessarily have to do that. In fact, what's oftentimes really important is to understand very specifically what a writer's perspectives are, and so you definitely want to be using I. Number 9, a thesis should be 1 sentence long. I say theses often consist of several steps or concepts that take multiple sentences to explain. Realize that a thesis is just your big idea that you want to get across, the big idea that you want to be proving here. If you're writing a book, that's a big, complicated idea. It might take an entire chapter of a book to develop a thesis. Now, obviously, we aren't going to be taking that much time developing the theses that we're going to be doing because our assignment is going to be a lot shorter, but you can definitely have a thesis that can be more than 1 sentence long. We probably don't want it to be 10 sentences long for something that's only going to be 3 pages, but 2 or 3 sentences is not out of bounds. That definitely can make some sense. So keep that in mind. And then number 10, writing is something you only do in school. And again, I say here, most higher-level jobs, including those in healthcare, technology, and criminal justice, require the kinds of strong writing and critical thinking skills we'll be working on in this class. It's important to recognize that a lot of what we're doing with writing is this thing of critical thinking skills, right? It's a matter of processing information, making arguments, being able to come up with ideas. One of the reasons why you're in college is so that you can be advancing your careers. And in the kinds of jobs that you get with a college education, you move from being an employee who is simply told what to do to somebody who's starting to make some decisions. That's the thing that requires some critical thinking skills. And for you to be able to communicate those complex ideas to other people, right? Hopefully you're going to be somebody who's going to be more in charge than you would be without a college degree. And so now you need to think about how it is that you make decisions and communicate those decisions, be able to come up with arguments about why we should do one thing versus something else. And those are the kinds of things that you're going to need these writing skills for. So keep all of those myths in mind. Keep in mind and realize that they are myths. And we'll be working through those as we go through the semester, as we go through and grading your assignments as you're working through from outline to rough draft to final draft. A lot of these ideas are going to come up in that.